The views expressed here are personal in nature and shall not be construed as investment advice.
We want to invite the very first guest to this podcast, and we had this internal discussion कि किसको बुलाए. The first name and the unanimous call was Neil Parikh.
Wow, thank you so much. That's a great honor and a lot of pressure also.
Welcome to this podcast named Growth 100x, and this is powered by AD Nike Wealth. The first guest that we have on this podcast is none other than Mr. Neil Parikh. The daughter is daddy's girl or mama's girl?
Depends. Depends. Sometimes she's pretty smart like that, you know. So sometimes mama, sometimes papa. So she knows how to play us. Yeah, I mean, I was the accidental CEO, I would say. I think today it's very important that you don't overextend in your business about paying up or having fizul ka kharcha, you know.
Correct. Mr. Parag Parikh was like the first gentleman who used to give detailed research reports. What prompted him to build this entire business? Okay.
And that was actually a big turning point. I would say even for today, you know, today where we are, I think that was actually the big turning point of our journey. Is because and that was like late 80s, I think, if my memory serves me right. People should come to me because they trust me.
Correct.
And that's about it, not because I'm giving them Johnny Walker Black Label, you know, I mean, to be very honest. So
correct. How is the day in the life of Neil Parikh when it comes to managing the business?
Again, it's about transitioning from a family office to a more professionally run office or a corporate office, you know, and we are in that journey right now where a lot of stuff is, you know, I'm learning as we go along, you know. Again, a preference is to buy a property, have a McDonald's kind of a model where you have a real estate kind of a thing. Less talk, more listen. I think that's one thing. I think, you know, ideas can come from anyone and everyone.
How do you define success as an individual?
As an individual, for my organization, or
For the organization, for also, and for you as a person?
tough one, yeah. Make the business as boring as possible, right? I mean, it doesn't need to be exciting. Every day should not be something exciting. It should be as boring as possible. Right? So that means if it's boring, means it's just everyone's just doing their job, it's taking care, things are moving forward. I'll be very happy with that, you know, just to spend quality time without always having something on the back of my mind. I've not reached that stage.
Welcome to this podcast named Growth 100x, and this is powered by AD Nike Wealth. The first guest that we have on this podcast is none other than Mr. Neil Parikh. Neil is the chairman and the chief executive officer of PPFAS Mutual Fund. He has been associated with Parag Parikh Financial Advisory Services since 2004. And now, under his leadership, the assets under management has grown to 90,000 crores. Welcome to this podcast, Neil.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me here. It's a great honor.
It is a pleasure to have you here. मैंने जैसे आपको कहा स्टार्टिंग में जब हम लोग ये डिस्कस कर रहे थे that we want to invite the very first guest to this podcast, and we had this internal discussion कि किसको बुलाए. The first name and the unanimous call was Neil Parikh.
Wow, thank you so much. That's a great honor and a lot of pressure also.
तो यहाँ पे अभी जो डिस्कस करने वाले हैं ना, सी पीपल हैव नोन नील एज द चीफ एग्जीक्यूटिव ऑफिसर. यू हैव बीन ऑन शोज. लोगों ने आपको देखा है, लोगों ने आपको सुना है, आपसे बात की है. व्हाट वी आर ट्राइंग टू डू हियर इज फर्स्ट वी वुड लाइक टू नो नील एज अ पर्सन, राइट? सो you, about you, your mother, your wife Khushbu,
Yes.
2 daughters,
Yes.
Sahil,
Yes.
and Sitanshi.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So if you can just take us through them. How are they? What are they doing?
So, thankfully, all of them are great. All of them are doing fine. So my mother is doing exceptionally well. They were obviously in a very bad accident about 9 years back, and that time the doctors in the US didn't give her much of a chance of survival, and even if she survived, they said that they'll have some motor issue or some paralysis, but she's made 100% recovery, and that's all kudos to her and her spirit of life, and actually the doctors are very surprised. The doctor in the US, when she went last year, were very surprised that she made such a big recovery, and they've used her example in medical science. So she's doing amazingly well. My brother, his wife, they're doing fantastic. My brother is a techie. He's a self-made person, a self-made entrepreneur, and he's just passionate about what he does, So he's doing well. My bhabhi, Sitanshi, she's doing well. My wife, again, we had 2 kids. We have 2 kids, and we had our second daughter just 7 months back. So that's keeping us busy. And my elder daughter is 7 years old, and she's in school, and now she's getting more and more independent. So, so everyone's doing well, and touch wood, all well in the family.
The daughter is daddy's girl or mama's girl?
Depends. Depends. Sometimes she's pretty smart like that, So sometimes mama, sometimes papa. So she knows how to play us.
नहीं, ये होता है. With me also I have a daughter, and most of the times it is the papa. ये मैंने पहले से ही कोशिश की थी कि नहीं, she's going to be daddy's girl only. तो कोशिश वो है. I think so. You have grown up in the 80s, right?
Yes.
So growing up in the 80s, situation अलग थी as compared to what we have right now. How was the atmosphere back home, right? And especially, who was the taskmaster, mom or dad?
Okay, so growing up, so honestly, when we were growing up, we didn't have. We were comfortable living, but we weren't in any stretch of the imagination rich in today's term. It was comfortable. We stayed in a 2-bedroom apartment. We were in Walkeshwar in South Bombay, but we were 10 people living in a 2-bedroom apartment. Wow. So for the longest time, me and my brother, we didn't have a room, or we was staying with 5 other people in the living room and stuff like that. So, but it was nice, it was a good atmosphere, and things were taken care of. I mean, we were comfortable, so having a brother was a good thing, because we never got bored, because that time we never had screen time and TV and all those things what you have right now in so many classes. So we would just make our own games up and play, and we both were very sporty. So we used to just make our house into a games thing. We used to play cricket. We used to make the dining table into a table tennis table, and again, the main thing that time was building friends and playing in the building from morning to night during summer vacations. Travel wasn't that big a deal, at that time. I mean, today everyone needs to travel 4 times a year, and traveling has become very normalized. At that time it wasn't. You would go for 4-5 days to Khandala, Lonavala type of stuff, but beyond that, very rarely you would really travel so much. So the summer vacations became a time where from 7 in the morning till 7 in the night we would just be out and playing. And those were wonderful times. Wonderful times. I really miss them, because we were so active and always had something to do. So that was there. Taskmaster, I think my dad was a little more of a taskmaster. I think me and my brother were a little more scared of my dad than my mom. So but he was a little scary, but that changed after we were slightly older, and then we had like more of a friendly kind of a relationship. But growing up, he was definitely a bit of a taskmaster.
But that happens with boys, right?
Yeah, I would think so.
Generally, we are all mama's boys.
But I think it's different today, I mean, today we are very softies, Today dads are all soft people. Moms are the taskmasters, I feel now. I think role reversal is happening.
Absolutely. So after, where did you go as far as schooling was concerned and then college was concerned? Did you always decide that you wanted to be into the financial services market?
I didn't, I'll be very honest, I didn't really have a plan in college, to be very honest. I'm like, okay, let me try out some stuff, and dabbled in computer science and a little bit in biology. And then I realized that I really liked economics. And then I stuck to economics and finance and stuff like that. In school, I was a pretty good kid. I was a very responsible kid growing up, I mean, if the homework would come on Friday and you had to give it up on Monday is submission, I would make sure I come back from school, do the homework, so that I have my whole weekend free. I didn't want any tension that I have to do my homework. So I was pretty responsible. In that way, my parents were pretty happy that okay, he's doing everything by himself. So yeah, schooling was pretty great. I was I was a sporty kid. And again, I became captain of my school also. So I had some of those leaders. So my schooling experience was really great, So very happy with that. Then college, 2 years I was in HR college, where I must say that I didn't do anything for 2 years. And then I did go abroad to study. I went to the US to study. Again, my going to the US was actually a very different experience, going all the way to the US. And I was in a small college, I mean, not a small college, but a small town. It was in North Carolina. It wasn't a big city or something. So it was a bit of a shock also to me. Also, what I said, I think one of the main things I wanted to go abroad was to have my own room, because I never had my own room till then. That was a big draw that, I'll have my own room, So went there, but I had a really good experience, I think abroad, what abroad did to me. And then I went for my MBA also in 2008, and that was a great experience, because that's where you build, I think, the softer skills, the confidence comes, I think after school for a few years I wasn't very confident after I went to the US, because it was such a big place, and other people, I mean, I felt were probably doing much better than me, or coming from a small enclosed environment to a bigger environment. But I think when I went for my MBA, that really helped me to gain confidence to speak in public, to give presentations, which have all helped me today,
True.
So my MBA experience was actually pretty amazing.
Correct. So any particular experience that you have that has stayed with you when you were growing up as a kid, and then when you went to college, say something that happened at home, something that happened in school, that has shaped you in a certain way, that has stayed with you even today, ki haan yaar, I always remember this incident, good or bad, whatever it may be.
So I think one thing that has stayed with me, and it's been a continuous thing. It's probably not just one one thing,
Fair.
I think it was about money management.
Okay.
I think it was about budgeting. I think it was about, like I said, we were comfortable, but we were no way like super rich or anything that we had that much disposable income. So when we went also abroad to study, that my parents sent me, again taking up a job there. So I was a computer consultant for my dorm, so I got my housing free that time. Also we had to live on a budget, so how do you budget, so that responsibility for money has come from a very early age to me, so I think I would say frugal living. I think that stayed with me, and I think that's also helped translate today into the business, It's about, I'm very conscious about how much money we spend on things. It's like, even if there's wasted paper, or we are spending like little more on printing costs and all that, those things are really I really take into consideration all those things, so I think that has stayed with me. I think that has continued, that has really helped us, because I think today it's very important that you don't overextend in your business about paying up or having fizul ka kharcha,
Correct,
I mean,
correct.
running a tight ship actually helps, and it's more and more crucial as you are growing, because those can go out of whack sometimes. So taking care of those expenses and budgeting for it, and having the expenses not going above a certain threshold has stayed with me, and I think that's helped us in good stead right now.
Cool. My next question, it's a little personal. I want to know, how did you meet Khushbu?
I met her on a blind date.
Arey wah.
So it so happens that her friend and my friend, they met they met somewhere and they became friends, and they're like, okay, why don't we get another friend each, and let's just go out for lunch,
Sure.
And so her friend's like, okay, I have a single friend. My friend like, I have a single friend. So like, okay, maybe let's get them there, And it so happened that we met for lunch, 4 of us, and we really didn't talk much during the lunch.
Okay.
But when we were leaving the restaurant, we had like this, we just started talking, and it just seemed like the conversation didn't get over only. So we were down in the restaurant. I mean, we were done with lunch, so we were on the road, and we were just chatting, and we just felt like we could just chat, and the chat was very easy. And then we exchanged numbers, and one thing led to the other, and today we're married with 2 kids.
ग्रेट 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 ग्रेट. अगर हम लोग घर का एक माहौल के बारे में बात करें, यू नो, आई बिलीव योर फादर इज अ फर्स्ट जनरेशन एंटरप्रेन्योर.
Yes.
Right, so he was a stockbroker.
Yes.
When he started off.
Yes.
Right. So when PPFAS was started, 1992.
Yes. 94. Yeah. 92 or 94. Yeah.
Right. I believe Mr. Parag Parikh was like the first gentleman who used to give detailed research reports. You know, whatever I have learnt about him, whatever I read about him, he was the first gentleman who gave detailed research reports to people. In fact, when India opened up and you had a lot of foreign companies coming to India, you had Tiger Management also coming in to India. You had Julian Robertson who had come in, and he was the only broker, I believe, who was called to speak to him.
Yeah.
Right? So ये एक माहौल था. He was setting this whole thing up. What prompted him to build this entire business? That's probably the first question. I'll go to a follow-up question, but let us take this first.
Yeah, so I think for that, let's just go to the 80s.
Okay.
Before the 90s, you know, before liberalization happened. I think what at that time was a closed economy, obviously.
Correct.
We had only
Correct.
one institution, which was UTI at that time.
Yeah.
And UTI was a very closed, I mean, they only had 10 brokers or 11 brokers that were empaneled with them that time, you know. And they would get, and if you were empaneled with UTI, you're taken care of, you know. The
Correct.
orders are big and whatever it is. So he wanted to break into it. And again, at that point, and I guess all the serials we watched recently, and you would also know in the 80s, it was all about insider inside tips and inside information. That was the edge, right? The information was the edge.
Right.
And obviously, he was not very well connected to, entrepreneurs or chairmen of big companies and stuff like that, you know. So he's like, oh, that's not my edge. My edge is that I like reading reports. I like looking at companies and figuring out, do they make a good investment or not, you know. So he's like, why don't I do this, you know? Why don't I at least do a write-up of a one-pager on a interesting stock idea or an interesting stock that I have seen. And also at the same time, he used to read The Economist that time. And The Economist was not very well circulated at that point, you know. But he would find The Economist and he would cut articles of interesting articles, and he would staple it and he would send it to the UTI chairman.
Wow. Okay.
And this continued for a few years. It didn't happen automatically.
Correct.
But one fine day, I think the gentleman, the UTI chairman, thought that, this guy is doing something different than what I am getting. So I've got 12 guys who are giving me the same information, but this 13th guy is giving me something which is little different. Let me empanel him to UTI.
Okay.
We were the 13th brokers.
Okay.
And that was actually a big turning point. I would say even for today, you know, where we are, I think that was actually the big turning point of our journey. Is because and that was like late 80s, I think, if my memory serves me right, that we became the 13th broker for UTI. Now what happened was, when the country opened up, liberalization happened, like you mentioned. A lot of foreign players came, mutual funds came, domestic institutions came.
Correct.
And if you were empaneled with UTI, it would make an easy empanelment to everyone else, you know. And that's why the empanelments were easy at that point, you know, to various brokers. So broking actually became the bread and butter that time.
Correct. So वहाँ से शुरुआत हुई थी. Somewhere down the line, slowly and steadily, I believe financial planning was a vertical that was added. Right?
Yeah.
Uske baad, now it is a mutual fund house.
Yeah.
Why did this transition take place? You know, why didn't he, as a entrepreneur, the first generation entrepreneur, decided to continue with stockbroking? What was that trigger that you saw?
Yeah.
Because of which that transition happened?
Yeah. So so in 1996, the PMS regulations also came through. So we were one of the first people to get PMS license also. And that time, PMS became great for people like us who wanted to manage money. Because look, I mean, how do you make money in stockbroking if you make people buy and sell, buy and sell, buy and sell? If your strategy is buy and hold and 5 years don't do anything, it's not like you're going to make money in broking, right?
Correct.
And the fact that it became a very crowded
Market.
there, because various people came in, brokers were there. Again, internet broking also started coming in like early 2000, and that time the trend in the US was the broking, the broking cost charges are going to come down. So what you could charge 2% at that point, I mean, today it's free.
Yeah,
It's free. Broking is free. So again, the writing was on the wall that this is just not going to be. It's going to be a very commoditized industry where again you need to. At that point, also one other thing what used to happen was a lot of whining dining to get business. At that point. And then you had to throw lavish parties and have booze flowing and what have you. And that just didn't really go with his ethos at that time. He's like, I want to run a clean thing, people should come to me because they trust me. And that's about it. Not because I'm giving them Johnny Walker Black Label, I mean, to be very honest. So couple of those things happened, which I think changed his mind, that, that PMS has come also. Broking is there, but broking was the bread and butter because we were still getting institutional business and all that, so that was continuing. But PMS was very exciting for us because we were like, okay, now we can run our own strategy and it can be profitable and it can be something that excites us. Broking started not exciting him as such because it became into a very just a trading kind of, it became very speculative, know. And again, even institutions told, at that time I was on the institutional desk and in 2004-5 and that time I was so many of the institutional treasuries would say that, and I would say that buy this stock, or this stock looks good, 3 to 5 years, great business prospects, give the full gyan. He's like, nahi, 3 mahine mein kya hai, hamara long term 3 mahina hai. So those are the things that when you had those conversations, like, yeah, this is not going with our philosophy at some point. And slowly and steadily we wound it down. So it wasn't just a switch off.
Correct.
So we let it run. It was giving us some revenue till late 2000, 2008, 2009, 2010. But then slowly that was the writing on the wall, and PMS again, then that took over.
And then you moved.
Then from PM, so then we then when we were starting the mutual fund, we wanted to close down broking at that time. Is because there's no conflict of interest. When you're managing people's money and your broking reports would be floating around and stuff like that. So we're like, let's do this. Let's focus on only one thing, and because this is kind of what is passionate for us, And there was a time that financial crisis was done. I mean, it got over in 2009-10. We found the US markets very, very attractive at that point.
Okay.
And the PMS didn't allow us to invest abroad. It was only Indian portfolios. We like, and that time we were opening individual accounts for our HNI clients in US. But that was creating operational hassles because opening each individual account, and some people wanted to hedge the currency risk.
Correct.
Now when you hedge the currency risk and the rupee starts depreciating, then margin calls come.
Correct.
And these are all our HNI clients who are traveling, and I actually had to make the call, sir, margin call, you have to pay 30,000, otherwise we'll have to sell. And people who get HNI clients will be like annoyed, He's like, what is this? This is not this. I mean, it's great. My investments are doing great. I like the strategy of investing abroad.
Correct.
But this is not working. Operationally, this is not working. So there's a tipping point of what could be a good way to invest abroad for our clients, which can be scalable. And that's why we came up with the Flexi Cap fund, which could do 65% domestic, 35% outside India, and that kind of worked well for us.
Yeah, that is the PPFS is known for.
Yes.
PPFS
So that really worked out for us.
Correct. I just want to take you back in time. A time where on 3rd of May 2015, when Mr. Parikh and your mother, I believe he was going to the Berkshire Hathaway annual general meeting, right?
They had just finished the annual general meeting on that Saturday, and Sunday morning they were leaving for the airport to come back or go somewhere else,
Right.
So they had finished the meeting on Saturday, and Sunday early morning they were leaving for the airport.
And the accident happened.
Yes.
Right. My question to you here is, and this is again from the thought process of a business owner, somewhere down the line when this thing happens and you take over as the second generation or the next in line as such, you know, did this discussion ever happen with him? Because most of the business owners have this question in mind कि ये मैं बात करूँ तो कब करूँ और मुझे बात करनी भी है तो कैसे करनी है. You know, it's not something that it's comfortable to talk to. Right? How did that go up? You know, if you're comfortable sharing that.
So it's pretty crazy if I tell you this, that when he left in sometime in March or April for the thing, but a month before he called me and my brother to his cabin and he's like, I want to discuss my succession.
Okay.
So it's not like we probed it. He's the one who called us, who had a whole plan for us, and he showed us. And that was a very honest conversation. We were very glad. And today, me and my brother are very glad that he did that for us. Because if he didn't do that, I think there'd be mad confusion. There'd be so much confusion. At least we had somewhere what he wanted us to have, or, you know, some plan he had. So a structure was there. Obviously, that was 10 years back.
Correct.
10 years from today, obviously things are very different, but we have that structure there where we can play around a little bit, but more or less this is there. So that was in fact one of the most helpful things that happened, because after my dad passed away in that accident, it was much easier for me and my brother. Okay, we knew who's going to handle what. And that made it very transparent, very clear, and it's helped us even today. What he did that day is helping us today. Because otherwise it would be a lot of confusion in both our minds. There would definitely be confusion, but I think that talk is very necessary. I think everyone should talk to their heirs or their children about it, because again, now when we're managing money also and we have these transmission issues, and it's when we talk to some families, they're very well off and all, and everything seems very nice when the patriarch is living.
Correct.
Right? Everyone, and the patriarch thinks, oh my, what a lovely family I have. Everyone's after me, everyone's just going to be all cozy and they'll all manage it and they will do all this thing, like everything will be smooth.
Yeah.
But we've seen very opposite thing, and this happens more often than not. When the patriarch passes away and there is no plan, there's a lot of infighting, there's a lot of intention, there's a lot of ego wars also, and that creates a bigger mess than anything. So it's in the best interest of the family that those conversations do happen. It should happen, in my opinion, when the kids are probably in college, when they have certain maturity about these things, and the talk should start at that point.
Right. So how did he share this news with his old timers? मैं ये इसलिए पूछना चाह रहा हूँ because there must have been people who have been with the organization since not since inception, since a pretty long period of time, right? Now they have worked under your father's leadership, right? उसके बाद आप आते हो, तो कहीं ना वो एक होता है कि अरे I knew Mr. Parikh, I'm working along with Parikh, now this gentleman would come in, वो एक सेंस ऑफ कंटिन्यूटी होती है ना, हाउ वुड दिस जेंटलमैन वुड बी, कैसे काम करेगा, थिंग्स पीपल थिंक इन अ सर्टेन वे. और ये बिजनेस ओनर्स के साथ काफी होता है कि देयर इज दिस कोर टीम दैट दे हैव, और उनको वो डर लगता है. हाउ डिड यू स्मूदन दैट थिंग आउट? हाउ डिड ही स्पीक टू देम अबाउट यू आल्सो टेकिंग ओवर?
I don't think he'd ever spoke to them about me taking over, because like I said, it was just a month before he passed away that all these things, like at least I think me, my brother and Rajiv Thakkar, who's our CIO, so he was obviously been there longer than me in the organization.
Correct.
So he was obviously privy to some of these conversations and what. And my dad would confide a lot in him. Discuss the way forward. So in that way, it was good that he was also he kind of knew what my dad wanted, Correct. That was like actually the most senior person in our firm, even today, So he was well aware of that. Other than that, it was me and my brother who were aware. And when So the other thing is that how did I smoothen things out with my colleagues? One thing was that it wasn't just that his son is just coming, okay, because he passed away, he's just coming now and he's going to take over. Luckily that wasn't there. I had been working at PPFS for some time before that. At that point, we were a very small organization.
How many team members
We were
there?
35 people, at least 35 people, you know.
Okay.
Working from a single location at Kalagoda. You know, so I would interact with pretty much everyone. I mean, it was a small, it's like obviously today would be much different, right? I mean, different locations, so many people. That would be I think today would be a challenge if something like that would have happened.
Correct.
But at that time, it wasn't, I mean, it was challenging, obviously, but it was, looking back, I think it was great that we had only one office that time and we all were in that one office. Everyone saw me for all these years. So it wasn't like some new guy coming in. Obviously, I had to prove myself and take more of that leadership role and stuff like that because I was an employee of PPFS. I was a relationship manager at that point at PPFS, you know. And so suddenly, obviously, that trust was there. I would think that that trust was there. And the other thing, it happened in such a shocking time or in a shocking way. Very immediately it happened. There was not time to react as such. Okay, this guy, let's do it. Because at that point, so Rajiv, who's the CIO, and Ronak, who's my head of research, they were also in the car accident.
In that same
car, yeah. So it was for my mom, my dad, Rajiv and Ronak. Four of them were there. And all this happened. So obviously we didn't have too many senior people. So somebody had to just step in and take over. So there was not much time to debate or think about it. You know, it was like, okay, come on, let's just go about. So this happened. We found out we knew that at 9:30 p.m. India time on that Sunday. That accident happened. We didn't know the extent of it or any of that, but as time went by, obviously then you start like thinking, oh my god, we're not heard back from them, like, you know, we're not getting too much information and stuff like that, you know. So it was like almost like 3 a.m. that we actually found out that my dad was no more. We had no clue how my mom was doing. So and at that point, obviously we had to also think about you know, when this news comes out on Monday morning, there could be a run on the mutual fund. We were managing about 500 crores, I would think, that time. And maybe we needed to keep some liquidity if there was big redemptions, you know. So again, honestly, at 3-4 in the morning, me, my compliance person, some directors, we were chatting. We had like a board meeting at like 8:39 a.m. in the morning. Correct. Just to figure out. I spoke to the whole office at that point. It was just stepping in. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It was just more reactive than like super planning, you know. It was just that, okay, we just need to do this things, you know. These things are very necessary. Business has to also run. Also, this has happened. This strategy happened. I need to go back. I need to go there, be with my family also. But also, this is extremely important. Speak to key clients. So that morning was just work. Like I don't think I grieved for a couple of days because it was all about just getting this in order. And it just happened that I was there, and I mean, I was the accidental CEO, I would say, and that's continued. So I mean, if I have just a step forward, is that my dad was very talkative and very chatty about how we would want the organization to run, how we should lead, how we should manage people. So he had always been very talkative to me about that, you know. And obviously, since I was a child, I was in this field only, you know, PMS, before broking. So I knew all the things that have happened, Arshad Mehta, up, down, what the family went through, what my behavioral finance, my dad went there, IT, bus boom, all those things I'd seen, and I'd seen how that affected or how my dad ran during these times, you know, in times of extreme market disconnection, you know. And I guess those things were pretty much imbibed in me. So I kind of knew these were the values, philosophies that we need to keep. So the foundation just needed to be strong. He kept saying, foundation. Just build
Correct.
strong foundation. Things will happen over time. On that.
Could you share some of those insights here for the people, for business owners per se, first generation, second generation entrepreneurs, if you could share that?
Yeah. So again, so one thing was that client interest comes first.
Okay.
Build goodwill, not AUM. Okay.
Wow. Yeah.
Goodwill. If you build enough goodwill, enough trust, at least in the profession we are in.
Correct.
Then you know what? Over time this will happen. Don't go for short-term gains. You will need to take short-term pains for long-term gain. That's a given.
Correct.
Now, if you want short-term gains, then you're going to take probably not the best decision for your distributors, for your partners, for your investors. So those were things. Again, at that point, and the other thing is like, okay, if the market is too very bullish. I remember that time in 2007-8, I was part of the thing. So he said that I don't mind losing half my clients, but I don't want to lose half my clients' wealth.
Wow.
That was very important for me. Those are things that were embedded in me. That today also we are in a very extremely go-go bull market. We are sitting on a decent amount of cash.
Correct.
But it doesn't bother me. It's not like it's bothering any of us in the organization that short-term underperformance is a given. It'll probably happen.
Correct.
But we are not going to take excessive risk for that. And for that, yes, some business will probably go. But we're not going to lose our clients' money for that. So
makes sense.
So basically working in clients' interest, building trust, being very transparent in communication. Because I think communication is the most important thing. And when we started the mutual fund, there was one big gap we saw.
Yeah.
Communication was a big gap.
Correct.
And we're like, this is something that we need to focus on, and we focused really hard on that.
Correct. Question on succession planning that we were just talking about. Sahil is not part of the business, I believe.
Yeah.
On the day-to-day
no,
working,
yeah.
right? So again, this question comes from a business owner who has, let's say, a couple of kids, right? And one of the kids is into the part of the business, and let's say the other is not. The other has other interests to pursue. But as a father, you would want both to be taken care of, right? So my question to you was, if you could share certain things that Mr. Parag Parikh spoke to you and to Sahil, to ensure that things are smoothened out, there are no ruffles in the family.
Yeah. So again, like I mentioned about transparency in communication, he was a big believer in that, to be extremely transparent with us too. And also to hear our thoughts on the same, So one thing was like, from my family's perspective, we have some real estate and we have this company. There are two big assets we have. That's pretty much what it is. Obviously, he knew that I was interested in the business and I was probably there. My brother was successful in his own way by that time, He was did his own stuff. He was an entrepreneur from side. He's written a book also. So he knew that his passion is being a techie. And in the tech field and stuff like that. So again, he drew up a plan. He's like, guys, this is what I'm thinking. This is how the division will happen. Again, in real estate, having two brothers in the same real estate is a recipe for disaster.
Correct.
So he's like, okay, you cannot do everything 50-50 down the line. You can't do everything 50-50. There has to be some things where someone will be more, someone will be less, but that's the way it is. So then you are in control of this, you are in control of the other thing. In that way. So if it's 50-50, then both of you all are going to be at loggerheads as such, So he thought about this very well. And that time we were, it was not like we were thinking about any of these things, right?
Correct,
we were like, Dad, come on, what are you doing here? Why are you talking about all these things? Like, no, this is very necessary.
Correct.
And it so happened that a month later, he was no more after this, and we're so glad we had that conversation.
Correct.
Because at least there was a plan in place.
True.
So to build that plan is very important. To sit with your kids and say why you're doing certain things. If you had just made a will and not told us anything about it, I'm sure there would be moments that we both would be like, okay, why would you do this or why? But explaining why I'm doing this, why he's getting more of this and why you getting more of this or you're getting less of this is absolutely important. So we all and today me and my brother are extremely on the same page. in that way. We have no, at least as such, we both kind of know, okay, dad thought like this. We were all in agreement. Yes, something up and down a little bit, but more or less we are both on the same page. I mean, the most important thing is that two brothers or two kids are on the same page. And then that makes it everything simpler. If you're not on the same page, then things can just drag on, and you're not going to live a very happy life. It's always going to be tension built up.
If I take you back in time when your father started off this business as a stockbroker, right? The very first thing that happens with first generation entrepreneurs is that they find it difficult to hire talent. राइट लोग मिलते नहीं हैं उनके साथ काम करने के लिए. इट्स अ फैमिली मैनेज बिजनेस, FMB जिसे कहते हैं हम लोग. दे हैव दोज 1 or 2 पीपल. स्टार्टिंग में सब कुछ खुद करते हैं, एवरीथिंग इज देयर ओन. कॉलिंग भी खुद करेंगे, रिलेशनशिप मैनेजर भी खुद है, ऑपरेशंस वाले भी खुद है, everything that happens, right? But as you said, you know, it's a 35-member team at that point of time, and now it has grown to over
about close to 300 now.
300 odd people, right? So at that point of time, unhone, what was that mantra of hiring talent and retaining talent? Because retaining is equally important, right?
True.
What did he do?
Yeah. So I think hiring, like you said, was probably slightly the easier part than retaining them, you know. And he was a good judge of person. So that was one good thing that he kind of knew. He would not go to many rounds of interview. He would meet someone randomly also, and he likes that person. He's like, okay, you're hired, you know. So he had that instinct. So that instinct was great. But then, okay, now you got these people, and obviously not everyone would stay long and stuff like that. But he identified 2, 3, 4 people who are my core, and like I need to take care of them. But also, that time it was a small organization, and 30-35 people. So he said that. So one thing he did, which was great to retain talent, was that we could not give very high fixed salary. Market salaries, as you would say, and that was not till then. It was till 2019. I'm going to say. Okay. So it was for 20 years or more that we couldn't match market salaries, where say somebody is getting equivalent in a bigger fund house or a bigger brokerage or bigger PMS or what have you, or a foreign company, or we couldn't match those pay scales.
Correct.
So then what do you do? Because obviously we were not a big name by any stretch of the imagination. So to go, it's a big lure to go to a branded name and you're getting more paid. It's a no-brainer.
Correct.
It's a no-brainer. Anyone would do that.
Correct.
So at that point, what he did was that he shared 50% of the operating profits with the employees.
Wow.
So so he said that, look, the fixed component might be small, but if we do well this year, 50% of the operating profits are yours to take, which would most years would be then would take care of a lot of the things. The only thing was, it was not like a monthly salary. It would come in a lump sum at the end of the year. So what it also did was it made everyone work together. Because it's like basically he said that we all are entrepreneurs. We all will take part in the company's profits, you know. So let's all do well together. If we all do well together, we all reap the benefits of it. And that fostered a lot of collaboration even today. Even today, I think that, like you said, the culture of collaboration continues even today. I think that was a big thing he did, operating by way sharing operating profits. What we did once the mutual fund, we started the mutual fund after dad was he passed away 2015. By 2018-19, obviously those 2-3 years after he was not there was obviously tough. I mean, AUM didn't go pretty much anywhere, right? I mean, today NFOs are mopping up 8,000-9,000 crores, but it took us 5.5 years to even reach 1,000 crore AUM. You know, we started in 2013. By 2017-18, we were probably just about touching 1,000 crores, and again, that the other time that running a tight ship and being frugal about expenses really paid off. Because we kept our expenses low, and we kept and even in those times we were making a profit, which was pretty good for us, you know. The other thing we did was, at that point also, again, we were seeing the pay scales in other mutual funds. By the time we had finished 5 years and we were ripe for the poaching, people had 5 years of experience and ripe for poaching, So again, the pay scale was something we couldn't match because we're like, okay, we need to retain talent, also not go crazy about expenses like I mentioned. What should we do? So we gave ESOPs at that time.
Okay.
Long-term ESOPs, which would mature over 9 years.
Okay.
But that's what we told. Like, again, it's the same thing that you stay with us. These are the ESOPs, and those could be valuable if the company does well, if the industry does well. This will be a big payoff. And which has actually come true right now, because obviously business is picked up. We're doing reasonably well, and people have stayed along because I think the stock price is also gone. It's not a listed company; it's an unlisted company, but the value of those have gone up multi-fold. So a lot of people have made more money in the ESOPs than they would ever make.
Right.
In a bigger company just earning salary. So people have seen seen what ESOPs and stock options can actually do to their lives. So and I'm saying this because a lot of my employees and a lot of my colleagues tell me that this has like changed our lives. So that's amazing to hear.
Correct. So when you talk about culture, right? What is the culture like at PPFAS? Is there a culture where anybody could just go on and speak to you if he wants to, or there is certain set of hierarchy now that there are 300 odd team members? Question number 1. Question number 2 is, how do you ensure that everybody follows that certain vision and mission that Mr. Parag Parikh had? जब बहुत लोग जुड़ते हैं ना, जब 35 people होते हैं ना, they're small number of people. We know each other. We are more like friends. We are more like families. जब 300 लोग जुड़ते हैं ना, then it is different. Right? How do you ensure कि वो vision, वो mission, वो भी उनको पता है and they follow that?
So the second question I'll just answer first.
Sure.
So I think the culture needs to be, you can talk about culture, but it needs to be felt.
Correct.
And that's only with actions.
Correct.
Action of the top management, how I behave, how Rajiv behaves, how my fund managers behave, how the senior people behave.
Correct.
Will percolate down. I am very sure about that. If we behave badly, you're not going to expect anyone down the line. So you have to lead by example. Now today also, again, just a small example, when we travel, we go out of town to travel, we will make sure we get the best deal of the hotel. We will all share rooms. It's not like we all have separate rooms. We are all, I'm sharing with my colleagues rooms, and we all are staying together and all of those things,
Correct.
I think when people see that, oh, these guys are like so conscious about small expenses like that, we will not eat at a 5-star. Why do we eat dinner at a 5-star? We'll go to the UDP restaurant next door and eat food there. Now, I think that, and that's not by choice. It's just that it just comes a bit naturally to us. Like I said, we've been in that frugal kind of mindset, and we continue living by that. We don't live flashy lives. We're comfortable, but it's not like we have so many wants or any of those, And that I can say is pretty much for all our senior managers, who's again, and most of them have stayed now more than 10 years. So 2015, I took over. I think 9 out of 10 of them have stayed over 10 years after that. So we've developed this crazy bond also, because we've gone through, as an organization, we went through a very crazy time together,
Correct.
And at that point, again, we all were doing everything, what's needed. Didn't care what title who had, title was the last thing. Am I CEO? Am I something else? It didn't bother. Only we're like, boss, company has to do well. Company does well. We all will do well.
Correct.
That was the mindset, and that was what your core team brings. I think a core team, they have a shared value system. They have a shared vision. If they have the same culture, same thing about how do you want to run the company, a shared vision. It makes it easier going down. Obviously, everyone, now that you grow, not everyone gets the culture, and
Yeah.
automatically some people will leave that culture. But
Yeah.
so one thing as you grow is that obviously the mid-level or the low-level, there'll be some churn. So
Churn,
expect
yeah.
that churn.
Yeah.
But if that top layer is strong, I think that has helped us percolate it all the way pretty much down. You know.
Yeah. One thing I've always heard business owners say is they hire for attitude and train for talent.
Yeah.
They will always keep saying this. Is that the same culture that was followed earlier, or you still follow that same thing? And how do you hire people now? Abhi situation badal gayi hai, tab situation alag thi.
Yeah.
What has that transition and the change has happened?
Yeah, so I think one thing that was very important, and we were lacking, I think, even a few years back for this, is a good HR team or an
Okay.
HR team. Yeah, you know, I mean, so the HR team was important is because to make processes, you know, back there, okay, it was family run, small company, there was no, how, it was whims and fancies sometimes, you know, it's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
like process driven, you know, now
Correct.
you got to be process driven. I think we've got our processes right.
Uh-huh.
I think we know what kind of, I think everyone knows what kind of people we're looking for, some of those qualities that they have. Obviously, it's not a foolproof thing. So, again, I don't do much of the hiring right now,
Correct.
except if it's a
The
senior
coach
level person, which
yeah.
has been very
Yeah.
few and far between. But back in the day, in 2015 to 18, 19, I was interviewing everyone from secretaries to operation people to everyone, you know.
Correct.
And at that point, it was just about a feel. Sometimes you get, you know, even if that person is probably not the most qualified, but you're like, yeah, she or he will
Do the
get the
job.
culture.
Haan.
They will get the culture. If you
Culture,
think
okay.
that, or you can say that, nahi, yeah, isko culture, I
Nahi
don't
jamega.
think the culture jamega usko.
Haan.
You know, again, if it, there's if someone is like extremely fast paced, want to grow too fast, that's not probably
Haan.
right here. You know, somebody who wants to learn, who wants to grow with the company, who doesn't mind putting in some time. So in the beginning, it was about feel. The feel and
Correct.
obviously communication skills and whatever
Yeah,
the softer community.
yeah.
But so now we've got the HR process pretty smooth, you know, and then the hiring, then and all the HODs or the head of departments know exactly what type of people. That's been very communicated very well to them. So these are kind of people they want, and now they've also been, most of them have been here more than 10 years, so they kind of know what kind of people we are looking for. So
Correct.
That's worked out decently fine for us.
As far as planning is concerned or annual planning is concerned, how do you go about that, right? साल में ये होता है तो कब होता है, okay? Who all are a part of that meeting, and how do you decide on setting up a target? Because why am I asking you this question is that whenever I speak to business owners, many of them say bada socho, bada socho, bada socho. But you know, sometimes just thinking big doesn't work. Your team needs to believe in that number. आपने बोल दिया 400x, for example, I'm just taking a number.
Yeah.
They need to believe in that, right? How do you go about doing that?
So every year in March,
Okay.
sometime in March, Saturday in March to be precise, we have a meeting with the whole office, and all the branches also tune in.
So 300 member team right now.
Yeah. Last time it was 220, 230, but everyone logs in from their
Okay.
location.
Uh-huh.
Bombay people, we hire a hall, and our Bombay
Correct.
staff is there, and it's a whole day. So it starts at 9 a.m. till lunch, and then by 2-3 we're wind
Correct.
up. But
Correct.
each HOD, me, obviously starts with me, Rajiv, fund managers also, and all the other head of departments. They will talk about what the year went by and what they are looking at the year going forward. One thing is that it creates that everyone's on the same page, that next year this is kind of the focus, these are the do's, these are the mistakes of last year, we made this, should not be repeated, let's run a company, reiterating also the principles that we follow.
Okay.
HOD is, for each department, they'll say what their goal is going forward. So that way everyone is on the same page as such, you know. So those are the softer part of the thing.
Yeah.
The other thing is that we don't have targets in our organization only.
Wow,
I
okay.
don't give anyone targets. No sales
Acha.
target, no target whatsoever.
Uh-huh.
The reason being is that I think to distinguish, are we professionals or are we business people?
Okay.
So either you're a profession or you're a business. Business is okay if you're an FMCG company or you're selling biscuits and all that. All that matters is how much biscuits you sell and your whatever top line, bottom line,
Correct,
whatever. That's the business.
Huh.
Now, as a profession is like a doctor or a lawyer.
Correct.
You have to do good for your investor,
Client,
your
yeah.
client.
Yeah.
You will go to a doctor because he gives you good advice and he's not going to do something which is harmful to your health.
Correct.
Lawyer will give you good advice on whatever issues you have. Similar, we look at ourselves as professionals. Now, if you give a target, I'll just give you a small example.
Yeah.
An anecdote. Imagine if a doctor has target. A heart surgeon has a target to do 30 open heart surgeries in a month. Now, boss, if you go on the last day and he's only done 25 heart surgeries, you go with gas, he'll promise you he'll cut open your heart.
Correct.
Right? To just get that target done.
Correct.
So for us, it's like, let's not do that. Let's not have targets. You just talk, just communicate. Like I said, communication is very important. Communicate our beliefs, our fund philosophy, what we are doing, and that's what it is. One thing is what I look at is like how fast a query has been solved.
Okay.
So that's the experience. Like the experience of that client needs to be great because we are not when we're dealing with money or investment, it's not like a tangible product.
Correct.
Like it's not like you go buy soap and you know exactly, you can smell it, you can feel it.
Yeah.
It's a tangible product. Here
Correct.
we are saying 5 साल में आपको शायद मिलेगा return, right?
Correct.
So until then, what do you need to give him? You need to give him a good experience. You know?
Correct.
So
Correct.
I think we are more about giving a good digital experience. The RMs have to be absolutely telling them the truth. If this product is not meant for you, tell him no, don't buy this. Don't buy any of our products for that matter.
Correct.
So those are times when we have said, I've definitely told people that we are not the right people for you. Give the right advice, build goodwill on that front. And no targets. You don't have any targets. I mean, honestly, if you ask me, we were, like I was telling you before we started, we were less than 3,000. We were not even 3,000 crores before COVID.
Correct.
Now, before COVID told me that you're going to be 90,000. There's no way I could have targets for all these things, you know.
Correct.
So I'm like, let's just create goodwill. Let's just create a good experience, and things will take care of themselves.
Correct.
Just build enough trust.
Yeah. How do you then? This is a follow-up question. A
Yeah.
question of curiosity.
Yeah.
Generally, क्या होता है ना? Everywhere there are sales targets.
Yeah.
Everywhere you work,
Yeah.
and then you are measured. Your performance is measured based on the numbers.
Yeah.
इतना business था, आपने इतना किया, इतना बड़ा है. Okay, this is how the hike is going to be, or this is the promotion that you're going to get.
Yeah.
Generally, that's how numbers drive things. In your case now, how do you look at the performance of an individual working at you and your organization?
Yeah. So I think a lot of it is on the softer parts of things. You know?
Okay.
So obviously we have those KRAs and
The KPIs and all.
KPIs and all those things. You know, that the head of department will set. You know, that you have to meet so many people. So my thing is that how many people you're meeting.
Okay.
How fast you're solving a query. How's your communication skill? Did you give a presentation? How was that received? Some of those things. Did you give good ideas? Because it's a very open organization. Like I forgot to answer one of your questions earlier about how is it hierarchy or can be. It's a very open door policy, and it's a very collaborative kind of way of things. So anyone can just enter my cabin. I mean, if they have something to say, we have that conversation. So it's a very open conversation.
Yeah.
So so a lot of it is, I would say, so the downside is a lot of it is going to be a little bit subjective.
Correct.
When you're looking at people.
Correct.
And if there are not too many numbers to mark them by.
Yeah.
But on average, we don't have a big bell curve kind of thing to do, you know. So usually you get okay, good, or very good. There are
Acha.
3 ways. I mean, if you're bad, then you should not be in this organization only. But okay, so 3, 4, 5. So between, if you have to measure from 1 to 5, it's usually 3, 4, 5. So it's like 7% increase, 10% increase, or 12% increase.
That is okay, good, and
Okay,
yeah.
good. I'm just giving you an example,
Yeah.
of those
Okay,
things. So
okay.
again, they're in 3 buckets as such, you know.
Huh.
So far it's worked for us. So far that's been fine. Obviously, if there are, if again the HODs need to tell me if someone is exceptional and they need to be retained, and if they're underpaid, and obviously those conversations keeps happening.
Correct.
But yeah, it's not too much on the how much sales you've got. It's on all.
So
these
it's
sort of
more on the controllables per se,
Yeah,
right? आप क्या करते हो खुद
क्या
जाके?
करते हो? Are you proactive? Are you acting like an entrepreneur? Are you just like following orders and not giving or not contributing to team discussions or any of that? But if someone is giving great ideas, then boss, you're there. You're in the 12, then in the A category. Then you know.
Correct. One thing, which generally what happens with business owners per se, entrepreneurs is they started the business.
Yeah.
So the control is with them. They are the ones who take the calls. They are the ones who are the decision makers. जो भी कुछ करना है, the buck stops there. मतलब even the smallest decision comes to the entrepreneur and he says, "Sir, ये करना है कि नहीं करना है?" And then he is the one who is going to take the call, right? How have you, as now the second generation, the CEO now, have parted this or given away that right to a lot of other people? How do you keep control of those things as such?
I think empowering is very, very important. Empowering your senior people, because you've hired them and they're probably better than you in a lot of aspects, right?
Correct,
I mean,
correct.
And at least in that area, they probably have more of a clue. They're more clued in than probably I am. So again, we encourage people to think like owners, entrepreneurs. What would you like to do? Obviously, there are things that come to me. I'll make that decision and all that. But more and more, we want the head of department or the senior people to come and tell me, okay, these are the options. I think this is great. I mean, empower them to make those decisions. So, yeah, a lot of it is getting, and again, like I said, even before me, my dad was also in a similar kind of thing. You know, he wasn't there trying to make all the decisions. It was again, those 3-4 people were very collaborative. Again, same here. In our organization, top 3-4 people, we collaborate, we figure out. It's not like my way or the highway at all, actually. But we come to a conclusion, consensus, and then that's how the decision is made. But more and more, I think empowering people is helping. You know, I think that gives them confidence also.
Correct.
And they become better decision makers and better heads in their own right, instead of just spoon feeding them, okay, ye karne ka hai, ye karne ka hai, ye karne ka hai. Let them make the decision. They'll make a couple of mistakes also, but we'll figure that out.
But that is fine.
That's, as long as it's not a crazy blow up, you know. I mean, and probably that doesn't happen. But sometimes they've tried something and it didn't work. Which is okay.
Which is fine. Great. How is your leadership style different or similar with Mr. Parikh?
I think it's pretty similar.
Okay.
Like I said earlier, that you talk a lot about the foundation, the philosophy, the values, you know, and I think that's what it is. It's about just making a stronger and stronger foundation. So one thing we keep saying is that the tree only grows as tall as how strong its roots are.
Wow.
So what, and it was very clear to him and then now to me that all I need to do and all we need to do is just strengthening those roots. Just make sure those roots are stronger and stronger. Let the tree grow. I don't need to be in the forefront of anything, you know. I mean, I don't need to lead from front or be the face of the organization. It really, that doesn't really, is not something that excites me, or I need to be there, you know. It's about, I don't mind leading from the back and just strengthening the foundation. I mean, for us, it's all about, for me, I'm just passionate that PPFAS grows and grows well and grows with trust, you know, not just growth for the sake of growth, but we actually do reasonable things for people. We don't put their hard-earned money at risk. However, sometimes we do get brickbats on why we are holding cash and underperformance, and we've not given you money to just sit on cash and stuff like
Correct,
that.
correct,
You know,
correct.
I mean, there are things that it does come back, but I think we are pretty focused on the job at hand. You know that okay, like I mean, there has to be. Returns is one thing, but risk is something that not many people talk about. And
True.
If you've given me your hard-earned money, I don't want to just invest in things which I will not invest because they are already expensive. We'll wait and
Correct.
we'll see
Correct.
it. So again, that's kind of the leadership style in the sense that it's very similar to his. We'll obviously have our little bit of
Yeah.
differences in the sense that I feel like I'm more democratic or diplomatic. He was to your face quite
Acha.
often, you know. So in a way that sometimes helps in dealing with people, and I'm pretty diplomatic. I
Acha.
don't need to
Ha, ha.
always be confrontational or any
Correct.
of those things, you know. So,
Correct.
but he was, he was fiery. He was, he was a good leader. Yeah. So that part was slightly different. Maybe I need to grow into that. I don't know, but yeah, that's a little differences there. But more or less, I would think it's from the same line.
Yeah, yeah. How is the day in the life of Neil Parikh when it comes to managing the business? I mean, पूरे दिन में, if you have to keep control over how things are working, how would that day would go by? Are you? Let me just rephrase the question. If are you a hands-off manager or are you into things per se?
It depends on situation to situation, to be very honest. Sometimes it's just better to be hands off.
Okay.
In the terms of certain things, people who are, say, I feel sometimes the head or someone is probably doing a great job. He doesn't need me to
Empowering people and letting
empower him, and he's doing fairly well. We obviously chat. We chat about actually what is important for the organization, not the nitty gritties of this and that. You know, it's about the bigger picture. Where are we heading? Strategic stuff. Are the values being maintained? Are we not straying to anywhere else? You know, just having that focus, putting our blinkers on and running our race. You know, not looking left, right. Okay, these people have had so many NFOs. NFOs are in the flavor of the season. We've not had one NFO, but it's okay. I mean, that's the way we choose to do it. So make sure like I said, the foundation is strong. You know, all those other things, the day to day, I think the heads of departments, wherever I'm needed, I'm definitely in there. And more, actually, we all were pretty hands-on till I think I would say last 2 or 3 years. I think now 2 or 3 years, I think the organization becoming slightly well-oiled in the sense that process-driven, people know their jobs and they've now had that experience doing it. So they don't really. Sometimes you just say, no, we don't need your help right now. You know, I mean, it's okay. So I'm like, yeah, use me wherever you need me.
Correct.
So it's a mixed thing. You know, some people you let them be because they are doing a better job than you interfering. Some people, some head of departments, you need to be more involved in the whole process or anything like that. So you just need to, I think, figure. I think there's no one right way, hands on, hands off. I think it's a mixture of just figuring out who would be better hands off, who would be better hands on.
Yeah, right. I have a question which probably I forgot to ask earlier. You know, the one question. This would be a question that a lot of us who know PPFS Mutual Fund would like to know. How was Rajiv Thakkar hired in the organization? I'm taking you back in time.
Yeah.
You know, you said your father had that keen eye of knowing whom he can pick and stay and who can grow with the company. And Rajiv has been that one guy. You know, he's now today he's a legendary fund manager. You know? How did that conversation happen?
Yeah, so Rajiv was actually hired in the debt markets,
the
debt side of it. You know, we had a debt market operation, and he was one of the dealers, I think. And this predates me, so I might get the story not 100% right, but I'll just tell you more or less what happened. So he was hired as a debt dealer at that point in late 90s or early 2000, and that time he was seeing that the interest rates were coming down, but dividend yields on some stocks were 12%, 15%. Hero Motors was giving you that much, and the debt market was not really going anywhere for us, you know. I mean, so he once, I think the story goes that he went to my dad's office, dad's cabin, and he said that you need to shut down this debt department. Pull the plug. So he's like, but my dad's like, but you're employed, you'll lose your job. He's like, that's immaterial, but for the organization, I think it makes more sense that we concentrate on equities right now, because look at, and he came with a presentation, I think, that these are the opportunities there. I mean, why would we want to do debt when equity is giving more? The dividend is much more than what the interest we are getting out of these things. And again, with the debt, you have to have a very high, it was a very high-end team, very a large team. He's like, this doesn't make sense. I think we can do this and we can be profitable. The organization can go much ahead because of this. And that was a time when, so then my dad said that you're the PMS fund manager from today.
Wow.
And that's how he became equity fund manager.
Wow.
So I hope I got the story right. So, but it was more or less in this way it worked out, and it's worked out great, I guess, for him and the organization.
And for investors.
And for investors, for everyone. So, yeah, glad that happened, and glad Rajiv is on the equity side.
So now as a CEO, you know, as somebody who is more into running the ship, how do you strategize into taking the organization forward? What are the conversations that you are having with your team? I understand from the ethos side, I understand with the value system, I understand with the roots, but what are the conversations that you keep having with your team, the core team that you speak about taking the company forward, you know, scaling the organization?
So obviously we are just a mutual fund right now, but obviously we need to probably diversify in a couple of other verticals. So those talks are there about what are those other avenues or verticals that we'll be able to do justice to, which solves the needs of our clients. So those are the things, like, okay, what is the need of our client? So again, I think a lot of thing comes from the client.
Okay.
When we talk to a lot of clients, a lot of people, we find out, okay, this is the pain point for the client, or this is something that's that there's a gap, and we might be able to fill it up and do it in a way that he's comfortable and confident with us. And again, we talk about those experiences, and from there, I think a lot of the strategic growth of the company comes in that, okay, these two verticals is something we will concentrate on. Let's work more on this. So that's on the vertical part. Or diversifying out now. Okay, mutual fund is one, but what are a couple of other things? So there are two things in the pipeline which we are planning. So that's taking some of our time now, some of my time now. Again, in terms of the mutual fund is about how the experience of the client needs to be maintained. I think that's the core. Why we're doing this, and how do we maintain the experience of the client in terms of branches, people, even is there a new fund? For example, we keep talking about it. Okay, what are the things? But only again, a new fund will be only launched if we are excited to put our own money in it first.
Correct.
Secondly, if it's already part and it's around and a lot of mutual funds are doing it, then it might not make sense for us to also do it. You know, like getting a pure index fund out. There's no point me doing it. You know, when 40 other guys are doing it, it has no purpose, because it's a volume game. I mean, the bank run mutual fund would probably be a far better option to do that than I am. You know.
Correct.
So then there are things that we don't. We talk about those, and we're like, okay, something here can be interesting. We will look at it. It'll solve this need of our client. So if it's solving a need of a client, then it's something that we'll look at it. You know. And obviously, a lot of time goes into the HR part of it. I think in terms of as you grow. Like you said, more and more people are coming in. Are we getting the right people? Spending time with those people, or just planning on the hiring part, or just spending time with the HR team, saying that, okay, these are these are things we require. Okay, these are the good processes to follow. So let's have those processes also with us. So again, it's about transitioning from a family office to a more professionally run office or a corporate office, and we are in that journey right now where a lot of stuff is, I'm learning as we go along, so that's kind of where we are at, where we do want to grow, and there are a couple of verticals we'll probably hopefully start someday, and we'll obviously have more branch. I think what we realize, feet on street is very important. Branches are very important. It's just more than anything, it's a psychological thing, that people see that, okay, branch hai, acha inka office hai, matlab pata hai, okay, they're not some fly by night operator kind of a thing, so I think that expansion is continuing. So where to start the branches and how many people to hire and all those things, buy a property versus rent out a property. So again, a preference is to buy a property, have a McDonald's kind of a model where you have a real estate kind of a thing also working for you, where you buy offices in prime localities and that can be again a separate real estate part of your company. So quite a few of these things, so
How do you as an individual, because now you are in this role where people are looking up to you per se, how do you keep evolving as an individual, also as a CEO? Because जैसे कहा ना, आपने भी अभी कहा, you are in that growing phase as an organization. You are also learning things as a CEO, right? Second generation entrepreneur also. What are the things that you are doing per se as an individual to ensure that this is one that you learn on the job? That is one thing. But is there anything else that you look at per se to continuously keep growing as such? Maybe books, maybe workshops, maybe attending some sessions. How do you do that?
Yeah, I think less talk, more listen. I think that's one thing. I think ideas can come from anyone and everyone, and it's not like it's I am right, or I think just getting out of that part is something that I think I've been fairly okay with. I think there are way smarter people than I am in the organization, and it's better to listen to a lot of them and again, be open-minded, be open to all ideas. I think that's one. Don't be very closed about a lot of things, keep the mind open. I would think that's one. I think secondly is not always be on your toes. I think I'm always my wife always says that okay, just relax, peace out, I'm being a little worried about things is a good thing. It's not like, oh, I'm comfortable, acha 90,000 crores ho gaya AUM. It's always something that, okay, how do we improve something or the other? Oh, this happened. Oh, this person wrote that email, but that the written communication wasn't good. For it could be small things, just keep improving on that. My reading has actually been very less in the last 6 months to 1 year since my kid has been born. I've moved to a new house, so that's been there. But interesting talks is something I listen to. Again, interviews of people who I look up to, listen to them. Again, you get great ideas from competitors also, and also great ideas not what to do from competitors also. So also see what everyone else is also doing. It's not like you run your own race, but be aware a little bit of what's going on. Otherwise, I think more and more, I think just communicating with your team. I don't know. It sounds simple, but it's something like that. I just chat. We just chat and figure out, And on those, and you won't believe in those informal chats, not in the business meeting, but having those informal chats, we'll just come up with things. So there's no. I would not say something that these are things, but these are 3 or 4 things that I feel it's helped me.
Correct.
Just listening and communicating.
How do you define success as an individual?
As an individual for my organization, or
for the organization, for also, and for you as a person?
tough one, yeah. For the organization, I think it's slightly easier in the terms when someone says that we trust you. We trust you to manage your money. We're very happy. We get a sound sleep when you manage your money. So I think giving sound sleep to someone is definition of success for me.
Wow.
To my it could be people who work at PPFAs. I think having a good work-life balance for them, that they are not stressed out, they are happy coming to office. I think that's success for me.
Correct.
That these 250, 300 people who are working here, are they happy? That's the first thing. Obviously, investors and people tell us that, oh, we trust you, our money is safe, I can sleep well at night. That's success for me. I think if we can make my employees happy and investors, partners, have a good sound sleep, saying that, boss, mera paisa inke saath safe hai. Now I'm not worried. I think that's what it is, and that's about trust, and you build trust, and and AUM will fall. I've never been a big AUM chaser or any of that. I feel AUM will come as long as you do the right things. It'll come probably 3 years later. It might not come immediately, but it will come if you build enough trust. So for me, that is for the organization. That is what success is. For myself, I've not really thought about it, to be very honest. But I would think that having just quality time, not thinking about just spending quality time with, say, your family, but not having your mental space at work. Having just that with them, I think that will be success. That means the organization is running extremely smoothly. Things are taken care of. They probably don't need me. And again, to make the business as boring as possible, right? I mean, it doesn't need to be exciting. Every day should not be something exciting. It should be as boring as possible. That means if it's boring, means it's just everyone's just doing their job, it's taking care, things are moving forward. I'll be very happy with that, just to spend quality time without always having something on the back of my mind. I've not reached that stage. I always have something on the back of my mind, I feel.
Correct.
So we've not yet reached that stage. I feel.
I've heard you speak about return on experience. Could you share that? Because this is a new term for me also. Right? If you could share, what exactly does return on experience mean?
So I mean, if I'm talking about our space, the BFSI space, or mutual funds or asset management, I think one thing is that you're dealing with people's money.
Correct.
And like I said earlier, it's not a tangible thing.
Correct.
It's you're getting units of my mutual fund which are created out of thin air.
True.
Right? I mean, it's not something you can touch, see, and all that. So that experience for that client has to be amazing, because I have seen this, and you probably would have seen it, that they give the money, units are not credited to their account, or something happens in the middle. Oh my God, like people start jumping, right? I mean, and me too. If sometime even if I'm putting $1,000 or $2,000 somewhere and I'm not getting, I mean, I've given the money and I'm not getting the feedback on that. Obviously it gets you jumpy.
Correct.
And I think that's the thing. I think we need to handle those clients with giving them great experience. I mean, and that's my biggest thing with all my customer service people or something, that don't wait for a day or 2 days. Right now, today, everything is available by a click of a button.
Correct.
People expect immediate kind of thing. And there's and you know what? There are times when I know that the query is going to take 2 or 3 days, because it has to go through all the channels. Maybe it's scams or the payment gateway. We have to figure out it's a banking problem. Kaunsa problem hai, It might take some time, but at the same time, I'm like, but that person needs to be comforted. He's like, I am looking. It doesn't need some computer generated message to him. Pick up the phone. A human being should talk to him and be empathetic towards that person, and make sure that his queries, or if nothing else, he sleeps well at night knowing that someone is working behind to make his query come true, or to solve his query, and that's the experience. Secondly, experience for me, like I said, is communication. I think a lot of stuff gets lost in communication, or lost in translation as such. if you don't communicate effectively
Correct.
to your investors, to your employees, to whoever it is,
Correct.
and I'm very big on that because I think that creates a great experience. For example, we have an AGM for our unit holders once a year, and that is about all creating a good experience. And how the experience created is by having expectations matching.
Correct.
We will tell you that these are the expectations you have from our fund house. These are the values, these are the philosophy, this is how we manage the money. Yes, we will not always be fully invested. So if that is something a big no, then don't invest with us.
Correct.
Have that thing. When will I owe? When will we perform? When will we not perform? Have clearly. This is the time we won't perform. So at that time, be ready for this. That underperformance probably will happen at this point.
Correct.
What it does is also it matches their expectation and our expectation. As long as the expectations match, experience will be good. The problem with experience not being good is when expectations are all over the place.
Correct.
So these are the things I think we just need to, and these are like very obviously returns. You need to have returns and all that, but that's not in our hands per se.
Yeah.
But what is in our hands is to make sure that the experience when they are invested with us over those 5-7 year period is great.
Correct.
That they feel safe that they've invested here. That's experience for me.
Correct. Nice. Well, you were just talking right now about important of being there along with your family with nothing in the back of your mind with regards to work. As an entrepreneur, right? And I can understand that most of the firefighting, actually happens at the entrepreneur's end, How do you ensure that you give time to your family, right? Because I'm sure most first generation, second generation entrepreneurs would be going through this.
Yeah.
How do you ensure that you give time to both your daughters, to your mother, to your wife, and so on and so?
Yeah, I think the organization first has believed in work-life balance,
Okay.
So we don't want anyone to stay longer than required at office.
Okay.
And because there's no targets, there's not crazy in competition. It's all a collaborative. Like I said, now with ESOPs given and even the way that our increment system is or a bonus system is that organization does well, we all will do well. That's kind of the motto. It's not like, okay, you are exceptional worker, but you're not a team player. You might have opened a lot of doors, but you're not taking your team along with you. That's not a kind of person who this thing, So again, work-life balance has always been a big part of. I think by 5-6 o'clock we tell people to go now home. Leave. I mean, if you not achieve something by then, you're not going to achieve after that. And the problem is that today you're spending most of your time outside of your home. You say you're taking 1 hour to travel, 1 hour going, coming, you're spending 8-9 hours in office. Half the day is going, you're going back to eat dinner, probably watch some TV, spend a little time with your family, and then you go to sleep. So one thing is that office environment has to be great, because when they go home, they have to be good. If the office environment is only with stress and you're like, अच्छा इसने इतना sales किया, oh I've not done anything, उसको ये मिलेगा, मुझे नहीं मिलेगा, it creates tension. I don't want to create tension only. I'm like, boss, we'll do well, we all will do well,
Correct.
That's about it.
Correct.
And I think that helps me also. I mean, even I go home by 5-6 o'clock most days. I think then that's enough time for me to hang with my daughters or play a sport or something. And the other thing is that now what I've started doing is that Friday evening is the last time I see my email, then Monday morning. So Saturday, Sunday I try to keep it. Obviously if there are things that are obviously very important and all, you do that.
Correct.
But if it's a normal thing, you just don't want to see my email, which I mean, if it's extremely important, somebody will pick up the call and call me and say, boss, need your time. If it's not that important, you can wait till Monday, I'll wait till Monday. And then at least those 2 days, I feel like that has helped me by just spending quality time with my kids. I think that's one thing that's helped me. Just switch off completely from work stuff for the weekend, if you can.
And I believe you also play golf.
Yes, I do.
So a sport that you have taken up, which is probably picking up in India,
Yeah.
but India is a cricket fanatic
Yeah.
country
Yeah.
as such. So how did you pick up golf as a sport, and time कहाँ पे आप उसको देते हो आपके पूरे इसमें?
Yeah. So again, last 6 months I've not really played too much golf just because we had my second baby was born
Correct.
about 7 months back. So I would say, and before that also my wife was bedridden because of the pregnancy. It was not an easy pregnancy. So for my last I would say 9 months has been somewhere where I've not been able to play golf. But before that, I would try to make time once in the weekend. It takes 4 hours of your time, so it's a big commitment also. So when you have a family and all, it gets tougher. For sure, it gets tougher to play golf. But now I just told my wife 2 days back, like, I'm gonna start playing again. Now let the monsoons get over. I'm gonna again at least once a week start playing. So that's and how do I start playing golf? Look, my dad started playing golf, my mom started playing golf, and then it just happened that me and my brother also started playing golf, and then we could take a holiday where 4 of us would just go play golf for a week and come back. So it was a very good bonding time, that we did one activity together. So that was kind of what was that. Let's do one activity as a family.
Correct.
And golf just happened to be that.
Right. So Neil, my final question to you is, a lot of business owners get stuck into being a family managed business. They want to be a corporate, but that journey to being a corporate is a little difficult for them. समझ में नहीं आता कैसे करना है, क्या करना है, या चाहते भी है कि करना है, but then they restrict themselves कि सही होगा नहीं होगा, क्या करे कैसे करे, I may lose control, I don't know whether things will go my way or not. There will be a lot of other people who will come and who will have to make decisions. Yeah, you will have to share power with them. As such, you will have to empower them. Absolutely. Things will change, right? What is that message that you would like to give to all those guys who are business owners, first generation, second generation per se, but are yet not ready to take that leap of faith to being a corporate as such?
I think each experience of an entrepreneur will be different, So sometimes it might just make sense to remain a family-run company, and that might make absolute sense instead of having all these expenses and compliances to become fully corporate. Sometimes it just doesn't make sense to do that. So I think it's piece by piece you'll need to go. Again, for us, that journey started a few years back, I think in 2018-19, where we gave ESOPs. And also the fact that we are in an industry which is highly regulated by SEBI, and it makes sense to get professionals to do, to take over some of those functions, because, I mean, we would not do justice to that, So sometimes it's by force itself that you need to, or by regulation itself, that you just have to, it just makes more sense to corporatize it, have a balance of power in terms of, like you said, empower certain people to make those decisions, because again, also the fact that we went through like some crazy growth in the industry itself and in our own mutual fund. And it's impossible for one or two people to take care of those things. So I think as you grow, I think one thing that I've realized is that when you are small, everyone does everything. But as you grow larger, I see that the most important thing to have a focused approach, having one person to take care of one thing, another person taking care of one thing. I don't want one person to have two responsibilities anymore. Obviously, some people do have that because we're still in that transition. But going forward, I think the best way to do it is having focused approach of the job you're doing. You don't want to do, this is what you're responsible, and make sure you're damn responsible for that. I don't want you to look at other things then. And I think that is pretty much getting corporatized, is that the division of power happens. You're empowering people. You are telling that this person is this is your responsibility, and make sure there are no goof ups here, And from a management point of view, you're just overlooking things. And like I said, hopefully it becomes into a well-oiled machine where there's not, yeah, it make it as boring as possible, you know.
Correct.
That everything's running smoothly. It's nothing. There's no excitement every day. Acha ye hua, wo hua. Now that's something that if you can minimize those things and just things just run smoothly, that means everyone's doing their job. It's running like a well-oiled machine, like a corporate. It's going forward, and you don't need to I mean, honestly, sometimes inaction is the best actions over so much time. If you don't have to firefight something, I think it's a great thing.
Correct. So Neil, thank you so much for having a conversation with us. It was lovely speaking to you. The 3 words that I would like to take from this conversation, which I've continuously heard you say throughout this discussion. One was trust, the other was communication, and the third was transparency. Now, these are 3 words that I'm always going to take close to my heart. I'm going to keep this in mind, and I'm going to ensure that आगे चलकर मैं भी जब बात करूँगा मेरी टीम के साथ, I'll ensure that these things are always there. It was lovely speaking to you, Neil.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate being here.
Thank you.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Please read all scheme-related documents carefully.